create a data-driven supervision framework. Next slide, please. Now, this is the context of governance. From a governance perspective as a country, these are the policies that you need in place. I noticed Commissioner Mdua has left the building. He is one of the champions of the AI strategy. It's one thing that we've managed to do very well as a country in Zimbabwe. As you can see there, that is a comparison between Zimbabwe, SADC, the EU, and the US. So those are the 8 key policies that are required to be there from a readiness perspective. As you can see, as Zimbabwe, we're doing quite well. We've got 4 policies in place. We've got 2 of those governance frameworks as works in progress, and 2 of those will come with time. I noticed we don't have the AI policy, but we do have the national AI strategy there, number 4. And we also now need to specifically have something on IoT and hardware certification. In comparison with America, the US currently does not have a Data Protection Act, which means whenever you send your personal data to the US, there's no guarantee that your privacy can get any remediation if there is a breach to your privacy or your personal data. There is no data protection law at a national level in the US. It's federated. As you can see in SADC, there a lot of things are not present. From a maturity level, EU seems to have taken a step forward more than most jurisdictions. However, unlike Zimbabwe, they also don't have an AI strategy. So as part of the theme, AI strategy really builds into the strategy that we have today. It was recently launched, and hopefully as we engage with the conversations, we'll speak more about this. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now, what's the foundation for any economy, any e-commerce transaction, any e-transaction? It's the digital foundation itself. How many of you have heard of direct to sell? Yeah, I see a lot of glasses, a lot of professors, a lot of doctors. I'm sure with this one I might get a response. How many of you have heard of direct to sell? Yeah, I see 1 hand, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are you raising your hand for a friend, or this is for you? This is for him now. Now, what's happening is with direct to sell now, what the satellite providers are able to do now without any base station. Now, if you're a telecoms operator, we're talking about readiness. And readiness is something that you begin to think about now going into a 10-year cycle, into a 5-year cycle. If you're running a telecoms company or a telecoms business and you hear the word direct to sell, you should immediately start strategizing, start analyzing, what does this mean to my business? Essentially what direct sell does with a very basic phone, a very basic smartphone via a satellite without any base station, without any mobile switching center, you can now make a call by yourself. I repeat this, without any base station, without a mobile switching center. So essentially you're saying with your current phone that you have right now, or some of you have got 4 phones, with the 4 phones that you have on your desk right now, you now have the ability to make a direct voice call or send an SMS via satellite. So what does this mean for you if you're in telecoms business? How quickly will this technology evolve? Elon Musk, as of recently, actually moved his satellites a few meters lower, a few kilometers lower, thereby increasing the performance of direct-to-cell connectivity. They are hoping to have this launched. They've got a 2-year strategy. So it means if I want to call someone in Gutu, if I want to call someone in Alaska, and I don't have a cell tower close to me, I can now make this call via the LEO, via the low Earth orbit satellites. Now, we're talking about readiness. So if you're in the telco business, what does this mean for your business? You might not feel the impact year 1, year 2, year 3, but as we move forward, what will the impact be on your business? It's something to think about. Direct to sell business. From a regulatory perspective, how will we be able to monitor these calls? From an economic perspective, this money is going to be moving from the telecom sector to another sector. It's still telecoms, but it's not the local sector anymore, but the satellites are not being operated locally. How do we participate in the direct-to-sell market? So those are key questions as we try and prepare for the readiness of the economy. Now, LEOs, everyone is talking about Starlink. It's no secret. surveillance under Starlink, monitoring under Starlink, e-taxation under Starlink. Are we ready for it? I was just reading an article recently where Namibia actually refused to grant Starlink license in Namibia, following suit with South Africa. What was their reasoning? Is that the best decision to block out technology and innovation? Readiness. So those are some of the technologies that we'll be looking at as we go to the future. 6G. 6G is going to be 500 times faster than 5G. So essentially, I see Dr. Panache there. He's a key driver of autonomous cars. He's done a lot of research with autonomous cars. They've got a lot of sensors on them. So what you need with autonomous cars or any autonomous implementation is a lot of data and response time of at least 1 millisecond. And so 6G and 5G will provide that. But are we ready for that? The 6G comes, and what are we using the 6G for? Are we using it for what we're supposed to be using it for? Are we ready for it? Or are we just implementing it? Next slide, please. Now, these are the key digital pillars. I don't know what happened with the presentation. They seem to have been mashed around, but I was still trying to talk to them. The icons have been moved around. As you're talking about preparedness, you need to talk about e-transactions and e-commerce. E-commerce is good because the borders have been opened up. But remember, what usually was your market physically and no one had access to your market, people now have access to your market. Trade knows no borders. How are you going to protect your market? Because now everyone has got access to your market. In as much as there's an opportunity for you to extend it to other markets, how are you promoting and protecting your own local market? Taxation across borders. How do we tax transactions that are going in the cloud, via the cloud? How do you tax these transactions? I was with a colleague who was looking for a property a couple of weeks back, in fact, a few months back. And we went to this property in Marlborough. This was a 4-bedroomed house. And you know what? They had 20 people staying at this house. 20 individuals, young university graduates. And these 20 people, they were like 5 desks in each bedroom. They were remote workers. They are running a call center in Marlborough. So there are 5 people in each room. They work and sleep in that room. You could actually see blankets and a lot of pots and plates everywhere. They were doing remote support for a company in the UK. Now, none of the regulators in Zimbabwe, I think, know about this organization. I'm sure Zimra does not know about this organization. Portres possibly does not know about this organization. Zimra does not know about this organization. That's the problem with the internet. It provides opportunity, but opportunities that are difficult to monitor and track. So imagine a whole call center with 20 agents operating for clients in the UK is being run in Zimbabwe, but no one has got visibility over it. Yeah? It's scary. It is really scary. It's like allowing your teenage child to go out to an event that you don't know with people that you don't know. What is our maturity level right now in terms of this emerging technology? What is our readiness? People are running so many sophisticated scams in Zimbabwe. We talk about the Chinese, we had a similar setup, rented a full house, had people hacking people in Zambia, in Mozambique, from Zimbabwe. What is our readiness to curtail these threats? Next slide, please. Now, unfortunately, the law is the law. Please allow me to ask you, esteemed colleagues, to just tell your neighbor the law is the law. Please tell them for me, the law is the law. And now what the Cyber and Data Protection Act says is you cannot transfer data, personal data, beyond the borders of Zimbabwe without alerting Portras. Let me repeat that. You cannot transfer personally identifiable data outside the borders of Zimbabwe without alerting Portras. How many of you have notified Portras? I see a few hands there, some companies that have notified Portras. We'll speak more on that slide, quickly getting to it, where we'll define what cross-border transfer is. But the law is the law. And unfortunately, there's a punitive fine there, there's a punitive action there. If you transfer personally identifiable data outside of Zimbabwe without notifying a regulator, porters, there's a fine of up to 7 years for the CEO. Yeah, 7 years in jail for the CEO. Now, guys, don't take this as a strategy to get your CEO fired and transfer data outside Zimbabwe without notifying porters. Please do the correct thing. Notify porters. And if you're a CEO, ensure right now that your entity is compliant there. So those are some of the things you can do before a data transfer. Ensure there's a proper adequate decision, ensure there's proper standard contractual clauses, but most importantly, notify porters. Next slide, please. So this is how you do it. Firstly, identify the data to be transferred. Is it personal data? Examples of personal data include names, age, phone number, and to some extent, even an IP address is considered personally identifiable information, where the IP address is static and belongs to a specific person. Once you've identified and classified the data, the second thing is to do a data protection impact assessment. For that, your company would have to consult its DPO. I hope you guys know what DPOs are, and I hope you have DPOs of the companies you're coming from. The third thing is you need to do is, like I said, notify the authority. Who is the authority? Porters. Before the transfer. And if you're already transferring, please go ahead and still notify porters, regularize. Number 4, porters will then give you approval. That's getting the permission. Thereafter, you can proceed to what? To transfer the personal data beyond borders. The law is the what? The law is the law. Next slide, please. Where is our data going in Zimbabwe? As you can see there, the majority of the data, I'm being told I've got 6 minutes to go. Technology. So the majority of the data in Zimbabwe is going to the United States of America, the US, 21%. So for every 1 gig of data, 200 megabytes is going to the US. For every 5 gig of data, 1 gig is going to the US. The third bit there, if you look at it, most of the data that is going to the US is medical data. Most of the NGOs in Zimbabwe are sponsored by entities that are in the US and in the EU. And as part of the support agreements that we've got with this organization, the research data that you get has to be housed in America. And remember what I said about America previously. They do not have a National Data Protection Authority. They do not have a National Data Protection Act. And that's where our data is going. 20% of our data. A large chunk of our data is also going to Ireland and Canada. Combined together, they've got about 20% of data. Now, what does this mean to Zimbabweans? It means most of you in here are probably using Office 365. Most of you in here are probably using OneDrive. Most of you in here are probably using Azure. So if you're using Azure, if you're using Office 365, you are transferring data outside of Zimbabwe. And you need to come and regularize your activities with portals. Can I hear an amen? You need to come and regularize your affairs with portals. Now, we're still giving you the carrot. There's always a carrot and the stick. The stick is imminent. It's coming, guys. And the stick will hit the CEO first, 7 years. But before the CEO goes, what will you do first, good people? You'll extend that stick to you first. Yeah? Notify porters. So as long as you're using any one of these services, Azure, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud Platforms, all of this, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, Office 365, OneDrive, you are transferring data outside of Zimbabwe. So this data is based upon notifications that we receive as porters from companies such as yourselves. So far this year, we've already received 60 notifications from 60 distinct companies. Q1 alone. Okay. Next slide, please. Now, these are also statistics that we collect as porters from a security perspective. That they are the 2025 threat distributions by sector. The most targeted sector was government last year. So these are just threats. These are not actually the actual exploits. These are attempted attacks. So as we are monitoring the cyberspace, 30% of the attacks were targeted towards government. 20% towards finance, 10% towards the telecommunications industry. So we've got sensors and feeds that we are monitoring 24 hours as Fortress, and we then do an annual aggregation of that. So government is the most targeted. Now the slide below there is the reported breaches. And unfortunately, yes, nobody has been hacked here, and nobody has been breached. So look at your neighbor for me. Your neighbor, if you're looking at your neighbor, it's either one thing. Either your neighbor does not know that they've been breached, or your neighbor is lying to us. Yeah? It's only one of those two things. Because everyone has been what? Has been breached. So as you can see there, the highest reporting of breaches were in the finance sector. Secondly, the transport sector. Why is that? Because there's a lot of technology being used by the finance sector and the transport sector. And also because people in the finance sector and the transport sector are very serious about compliance. They report. I'm not saying people in the other sectors are not serious about compliance. But if you do the maths there, look at the sectors that are most hit and look at the sectors that are reporting. There's a mismatch there, isn't it? There's a mismatch. There's some people that are not what? Reporting. I won't do the maths. I'll leave you to do the maths to say who is not reporting. We know who's being hit the most, who's being targeted, and we know who's been reporting. If you do the maths, 1 + 1 is equals to 2, 3, 4. You'll get the answer. Lastly, we also investigate cyber crimes. And unfortunately, the highest cyber crimes, the most prevalent cyber crime is cyberbullying. And it is really something that is sad. I won't speak too much to it, maybe later on. I'm running out of time. But I wanted to point out to BEC, Business Email Compromise. As you go back to your offices, Business Email Compromise is the #1 conduit upon which businesses in Zimbabwe are being compromised. What are they targeting? They are targeting your procurement department and your finance department. Their objective is to try and intercept any vendor-related transactions, change the banking details, redirect you to a fake banking details. Please speak to Porters. We can come in and speak to you more on this BEC crime and how it makes. They'll spoof you. You end up speaking to someone who you think is your supplier, but is not your supplier. It is the #1 crime right now in Zimbabwe. Next slide, please. Please just bear with me a bit, colleagues. I'm almost done. Now, these are the readiness factors. What repudiation mechanisms do we have in place? We all know what repudiation is, where transaction cannot be disputed. It's very important once you go online, once you go cyber, as we build our readiness roadmap, what repudiation mechanism do we have? Standardization, protocols, security and quality standards. What is the interoperability maturity of Zimbabwe? Can you easily interconnect with another company? Can you easily share data with another company? Can you easily share data with other countries? Issues around open data sets. Most of you in here are doctors and professors. How hard was it for you to get data for research? We don't have publicly known open data sets for Zimbabwe. Yeah? We need open data sets for Zimbabwe. We need to start thinking about localization. And the elephant in the room is energy. We need data centers in Zimbabwe. Why are so many people transferring data outside of Zimbabwe? They're running away from the energy bill. They're running away from the ZESA bill, from the generator bill. If you've run a department before, if you run a data center before, you know power and cooling right now are the major OPEX driver right now. Power and cooling. Yeah. You need to start thinking about federated AI. What is federated AI? You actually download the model and you run it on your own data center. You don't have to actually run the data center in the cloud. Apple introduced an M4 chip. With your M4 chip, you can actually run any AI model locally on premise. Next slide, please. I think I've got 2 more slides left. Now, this is what we've done as Portress. I shan't go into detail with that, but these are the achievements that we've done. This is what we're trying to do towards readiness. Next slide, please. We need to have strategic foresight as Zimbabweans. Beyond thinking about what, let's think about how. How are others doing it? Why are others doing it? So beyond the how and the way, strategic foresight thinks to having an ideal and a prepared position. So when you talk about readiness, you're saying, what is our prepared position in 5 years? But beyond the prepared position, you need to have alternatives. Alternative B, C, and D. To say if A refuses, if A fails, what is the next position? I think I'm going to my final slide now. These are our key takeaways. Now I can see a lot of engineers in the building. There is what you call a simplex technology. When something is simplex, it's one way. Simplex protocol, it's something is one way. Now, we're talking about the cyber age. We're talking about readiness. But really, our data is moving one way. What data is coming into Zimbabwe? Or are we just exporting our data out? It's a key question to think about. And why don't we have data coming into Zimbabwe? How did China do it? China has got its own YouTube equivalent, its own WhatsApp equivalent, its own, right now we're using InDrive. Can we not come up with our own locally produced product? And when they're being developed, how come we are not supporting those locally developed products? So let's move away from this simplex mechanism where data is just going outside of Zimbabwe. Let's get business and data into Zimbabwe. Let's co-regulate. Let's harmonize our laws. Less regulations, huh? I thought those in the telecom sector would clip. Let me maybe bring that again. Less regulations, maybe softer regulations. So data localization and monetization through creation of global brands. If you go onto TikTok right now, our content creators are doing their TikTok videos in Shona and Debele. It's good. But can you monetize that? There's a guy, I think he's from Senegal. He doesn't even say a single word on his TikTok. He's just silent and doing hand gestures. He is the most monetized social media personality in the world because he's created a global brand. So as you're putting products onto the market, go beyond Zimbabwe. Yes, do a skit in Shona. But remember, you've only catered for the market in Zimbabwe. Globalize your products. Our final slide, please. As I conclude and as I leave the stage, challenge to you, said the CEO of AB and the organizers of the event. Now, what is the name of the event? Business Times, Telecoms. What's the name of the event, sir? Now, what Mr. Machengete, Dr. Machengete, the final and parting message was, you are no longer the telecommunications sector. You've gone beyond that. What are you guys? You are the technology sector. He calls it a myopia of some sort. Don't limit yourself to telecommunications because the business has evolved way beyond telecommunications. Some companies think of themselves as being electrical power companies, but no, they should be energy companies. Some companies think of themselves as being railway companies, but no, they should be in the business of transportation. Now, as I leave this, hopefully the 4th edition next year, say, it won't be the business telecommunications gathering. What will it be, say? The technology gathering. At this juncture, please clap hands for the presenter as he takes a seat. Thank you so much. Program, but at the moment, I want to take a break for tea. But be advised to ask questions. Be advised to have write them down. Majid was I have a couple of questions that I'm going to have to ask as well. Yeah, they just told me that the microphone is back. We are going for tea, but be advised to have your questions ready. Be advised to have an interactive conversation with the panel that we're going to have. So after the tea break, we're going to have a panel that's going to obviously conduct and confirm everything that we are talking about today and take it further. So if you want the program, you can scan on the screens right now. We have the whole program, what's going on, who's coming in, and why you need to be tapped in. So we're going for a 15-minute break. Please, let's go for tea. And at exactly, let's just say 10 past, actually not 10 past, at exactly 5 past 11, we should be back in our seats. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this conference, and I'm hoping that it's going to be impactful to not only your organization, but everybody who's here as well.
I forgot to mention T is right at the back. So if we leave from both exits, I think that one is close. My left, your right. We go right at the back. If we could be as quick as possible, so that we come back and continue with our conference.